We got to get on the airplane Friday, fly 3.5 hours or so. I know they're going to have a great crowd. Rutgers had a bye last week and played, I think, the previous Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So they'll almost have 2.5 weeks to prepare for this game. So again, our guys will be refocused, if you will, this afternoon and get ready for this challenge. Any questions?
Coach, Larry McDuffie off the 2 deep this week. Was he injured in the BYU game?
He was. Larry suffered a head injury and is very doubtful for this game.
Just to follow up, you have Aaron there. Is that kind of talked about DeMarcus' role? Does he kind of assume that back up and maybe get some additional work this weekend?
Yes. Again, DeMarcus Ayre is a true freshman, a young man that I think has done an outstanding job this far on special teams as our kickoff returner. He's been backing up Daniel Spencer at one of our inside receiver positions. And, again, he's a young man that as he comes into your program, are you going to redshirt him? Is he going to play? He broke into the 2 deep. Obviously, we recognized something early in his development that we felt like he'd be our top kick returner, and he has become that. And again, it's a long season, so we've got 6 guaranteed games left, and with Larry sustaining the injury and probably not playing this weekend, we're going to bump DeMarcus over there, try to get him caught up to speed on the outside receiver position, which is challenging to do when a young man's only been here for a couple of months and is focused on the inside receiver position. But Aaron Johnson has played. Again, he's been in our program. He's a redshirt junior. He's played a lot of special teams in his time here. And this season has played the most at receiver that he has in the 4 years he's been here. He's probably playing 30 snaps a game out there at the X position. So he's experienced. He's caught some passes. Has done a good job. So we'll go into this game with Aaron starting and the plan for DeMarcus to back him up. And I think he'll see significant playing time. They both will. Yes, yeah. He's again, Larry McDuffie suffered a head injury against BYU, so he'll go through our concussion management plan and process, and again, it's pretty extensive, so I don't see him being cleared by this weekend's game.
I know sometimes when teams, win, sometimes having a loss gives you a chance to evaluate some of the things that you've been doing over the entire period. That having this loss, obviously losing is never good, but having this loss give you a chance to evaluate everything.
Well, I'm going to try to answer what I think you're asking. We didn't come in Sunday and say, well, we lost, so let's evaluate everything. We're always evaluating what we're doing as coaches, and this is on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. We're always evaluating our personnel, who we're playing, how much they're playing, what position they're playing at. So again, we're trying to stay, and we're going to stay true to our overall big picture plan and the process. And unless certainly, and we've got a lot of dialogue and communication in our staff meetings. We did again this morning, and if there's ever anything that either I or certainly an assistant or staff member thinks, hey, we need to do this different, whether it's changing a scheme, changing personnel, eating a meal at a different time, anything that we think can help us that we need to discuss, we certainly will talk about it, make the decision we think is best. But again, coming off a heartbreaking 1-point loss to what I think is an outstanding football team, we're not going to, again, we're going to stay the course and not necessarily go into some certain mode and start changing things just for the sake of changing them. But again, trying to come full circle to your original question, that's a daily thing within our program, is making sure, are we doing the things we need to be doing on the field, off the field, time management, in the locker room, so our young men have a chance to be successful.
Coach, you reached the halfway point of the season so far. Can you discuss kind of what you like, what you can improve on, and kind of what you look forward to in the last half?
Well, there's a lot of things at this point that I think are positive, and I see the program for this season, for the long term, heading in the direction that I want it to go. And I think, again, I use the word process because it's daily. And when you look at the 6 games we've played, we've won 5, we've lost 1. I think our kids, as a coach, you're evaluated publicly, certainly by different things than you do internally. And as a coach, whether it's a head coach or assistants, when you tell an 18-year-old, this is what I want you to do, again, whether it's on a specific play, whether it's how you conduct yourself in the classroom, on campus, whether it's how there's so many things. I think as a coach, you kind of grade yourself, or are they listening to you? Are they doing what you ask them to do? And we've got a group of young men right now, and again, we've got about 125 young men in our program currently that are playing hard. They're defensively, they're tackling, they're taking the football away from the offense. Offensively, they're playing hard, they're taking care of the football for the most part. I see improvement across the board, really on a daily basis. I see great leadership within our team. When you look back and compare last year to this year, I think our kicking game is much, much improved. We've scored 2 touchdowns. I think Richie Leone is doing a fantastic job. So, and then again, it's not, when I go back to what I said 3 minutes ago about how you're judged outside your program, again, within your program, as coaches, I should say, not only do you want to see the young men do what you're asking them to do, but you get into the profession of coaching to help develop 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds into what you see they can be, and try to push them harder than you feel like they could push themselves. So I'm very, very proud of the way our young men represent our university and our program, again, on the field certainly, but even off the field, and in the classroom. And so when I talk about the job our staff, I feel like, has done to this point and where the program's headed, it's not internally completely about winning and losing. Well, there's more to it, at least within our program, and it's something I think our staff recognizes right now and is proud of at this point, and something we're going to continue to work on.
Tony, can you hit on this yesterday on the conference call? Can you hit a little bit more on just the differences between what you faced last year in terms of opponents and style and size compared to what you now, beginning with Temple and Memphis, have seen and will see the rest of the year? Well,
and I think, that's a good question. I think going into this season, we discussed it in the spring. We talked about it at some media days in the summertime. But I don't think, even as a coach, I don't think you get that appreciation, or as our fans and alumni, until you actually see the games being played. And it's a completely different style of play in the American Athletic Conference as opposed to Conference USA, the league we were in. And you're seeing that in the physical nature of both sides of the ball. You see skill players, meaning receivers, running backs, defensive backs, much, much bigger in this conference. And again, you see whether it's crediting defenses and how they play, or the, I'll say, lack of tempo, for lack of a better phrase, that our offenses, you look at just Memphis, for instance, huddling every play and controlling the clock and time of possession. So that's this conference. It's a very physical conference from top to bottom. I think I mentioned this yesterday, I don't remember when, but BYU runs it on the field, and I know they're not in our conference, but that's a big physical football team. They may as well be in this conference, because when you look in the teams that we have not faced yet this season, a Rutgers, a Central Florida, a Louisville, a South Florida, a Cincinnati, even an SMU, that's this conference now. It's big, it's physical, and they're not slow. They're still very athletic, and they've got great speed. So it's something, I know I've mentioned this in the past, that we knew this move was on the horizon, I'll say almost 2 years ago. So we've been addressing it in recruiting. We had a recruiting meeting again this morning looking at our commitments, and we feel like we're going to continue to address that moving forward.
I wanted to ask you about how you think your team will respond after their first loss of the year in a game in which you guys were right there and had chances to win it. You have the drop 2-point conversion.
Mm-hmm.
Your defense made some plays. You give it 47 points. It sounds kind of crazy, but your defense did make some plays. How do you think your guys will respond to that? Because it's different than losing 47-7. You lose by 1 point. Sometimes those are harder losses to overcome than blowout losses.
Right, and that's a great question. It's something we talked about in our staff meeting at length this morning. It was actually the last thing we talked about as a staff, because I think you're exactly right. And I think as you talk, and I'm asked about the halfway point of the season, and we played 6 games, this afternoon, this room is going to be filled with 125 19-year-olds. And when you look at the way the season's played out and the dynamics of game to game, where bye weeks fell, some close games, a rival opponent in Rice that came down to the wire, some teams that we played where within our program we knew the type of game it would be, but maybe publicly the assumption was this will be easy, this will be hard, this is a trap game. And again, when our young men go to class, when they go talk to their families and their friends, they're hearing that from the outside. Oh, this one's going to be easy. Oh, this is a tough game. And we're trying to make sure they're focused on our message. Again, no offense to family and friends and certainly their peers, but that's our job, is we're trying to send the message and get them to buy in to what we're telling them the week's going to be like. So I agree, and that's why we talked about it as a staff this morning at length, because we're coming off a homecoming game, a 4-hour and 7-minute game. Our kids really, really played hard, gave it everything they got, left everything out on the field. We came up short, and now we're going to get on an airplane on Friday, fly 3.5 hours. When we land, it's going to be 50 degrees. They're going to have a great crowd there. They have 2.5 weeks to prepare for us because they had a bye in the midweek game. And our kids this afternoon are going to know that, and that's going to be the message. This is what is going to happen this week. Again, I feel like I know how we're going to respond, but the proof will be in when the ball's kicked off at 11:01 Central Time Saturday morning. But again, I like the makeup of this team, and it's in my 6 years here, there's really been one team that's had this type of leadership from the student athletes, whereas coaches, you're not always having to correct them or motivate them, where it's coming from within, and that was the team a couple years ago that we went 13-1 with. So I like our team chemistry, I like our leadership, and I expect that they'll be ready to play Saturday morning.
And speaking of Rutgers, when you look at their team, they've got some explosive players on the offensive side of the ball. Twice this year already, they've scored over 50 points, both times on the road. Did you see anything that maybe Louisville did to them to slow them down that you could emulate, or how do you feel about them offensively?
Well, and a couple things. What the question, the way you started that question, you're playing a team that's explosive and they're scoring points and they're physical. I just feel like, going back to Joseph's question about this conference, you could, every week now, you'll be able to start a question with that. I mean, these are good football programs we're playing, and we're a good football program. So, again, they've got tremendous talent there. Kyle Flood has done a great job. Players play hard. I think that one thing's overlooked there is their special teams too. They've returned 3 kicks for touchdowns, and so it'll be a great challenge. And it's interesting as a coach because on Sunday, and really probably more so Monday, when you really are watching your upcoming opponent's video, as a coach, you're always saying, wow, these guys are really, really good. And you hope, and I feel confident that the opponents we're going to be facing are going to be putting on our video, which I tell our kids that's our resume, and you hope they're saying the same thing about us. So again, I think this is going to be another outstanding football game, two great programs going head to head, and you know, it'll be challenging for us. I think everything in your previous question that you asked is accurate. I think them being rested, having the additional 10 days or so to prepare for us, and us coming off this close loss and having to get on an airplane and go to their place is going to be something that we've got to make sure our young men understand what we're getting into with the environment, and we just got to go out and play.
Tony, on their end, I believe it's been a couple of games that James, their running back, hasn't played. I was wondering if you've seen any differences there on how they run their offense. And secondly, I think yesterday they announced two corners. The two corners are both freshmen, and they're going to start this weekend. You know, if you look at the matchup there, what you can say about having, you know, two young guys at that position for them.
Right. Well, and again, when you talk about the running back position, they're not going to change their philosophy much. You know, Coach Flood is considered one of the top offensive line coaches as an assistant in the country. So, you know, his personality, again, he's not calling the offense, but again, his personality is they want to be hard-nosed, which they certainly are when you put the tape on. And, you know, they're going to establish the run. The two other backs they've got are still big, physical young men. You know, there's no question any program that loses their starting running back, you know, you're turning to the next two guys. But we've done that as well with Farrow out. So they're gonna continue to try to establish the run. They do a great job. They're physical up front. And then, you know, we did certainly see the announcement that they're going to play the two freshmen at corners. The one kid, 31, I'm going to have to look for his name, Anthony. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his last name, but he's been a special teams guy for them who, as I'm watching the special teams film, 31 shows up all over the field. And I am a believer, with that being my background, if a guy can come in as a true freshman and play at a high level on special teams where you're playing in space, having a tackle, change direction, he can definitely play defense for you. So I expect those two to be ready to play against us Saturday. Well, and it's special teams. It's something we're trying to win that battle every week. And again, really, I say this, and it's going to hold true regardless of our opponent. Rutgers, you know, the thing that stands out, and they've blocked a couple kicks, but their return game is outstanding. And Janarian Grant is a true freshman that we actually recruited. We had him here on a visit. And I think his first college play in the opening game against Fresno State, he catches a kickoff, and I think he's still running. You know, he took it 100 yards and is very, very explosive, and is also their punt returner. And it'll be a great challenge for us. And then their starting receiver, Pratt, number 7, is the other returner. And when you want to kick it away from Grant and you kick it to him, he took one 99 yards. So they're very talented. Janarian took a punt return back for a touchdown as well, I believe, against Arkansas, which so it's going to be a great challenge. And again, I like what we've done to this point in the kicking game. I think you probably saw a good example of it this week with Richie's punts, pinning them inside not only the 20 but the 10-yard line, ultimately left to Derek Matthews' safety a couple plays later. Our kickoff coverage has been good this season. And then the thing we've done, again, through 6 games that we hadn't really did last season, was we've scored 2 touchdowns on the blocked field goal return, and then DeMarcus Ayers this week and we've blocked 3 kicks already. So we've got to continue to make plays in the kicking game, change momentum. I think when you go on the road, that's certainly important to try to get a swing and momentum if you can in a big play in the kicking game.
Tony, it wasn't really talked about after the game center, but Thomas Bates having the 2 interceptions, including the one in the end zone to kill a drive. He and Zach right there at the corner have really done a nice job. Can you just kind of talk about his performance and kind of what you've gotten out of those 2?
Those were 2 big interceptions. You know, one down in the red zone and in the end zone, which was huge. And you know, the thing that's among other things, I think a little bit different this year with our defense, and this is you know, a philosophy change, if you will. But we're playing 9 defensive linemen, so we're keeping defensive linemen fresh. We're playing a bunch of defensive backs, specifically at corner. You know, William Jackson is I think he played 50-something plays the other day. Teron Walker, our junior college transfer, I want to say played 30 or 35 snaps in this last game. So, you know, we're keeping Thomas fresh. I think Zach McMillan, he's got a couple of interceptions already this season, but he's playing his best football in his 4 years here. He's being very, very physical. He's coming up and tackling. So, you know, I like the rotation there. And, again, I like that those guys are making plays. You know, at the safety position, we don't have quite the depth. I think Trayvon Stewart, I want to say, played 144 plays when you combine the defensive stats, defensive snaps, rather, and his special teams plays against BYU. And that's, you know, that's really over 2 games right there when you look at 144 plays in one contest. So, you know, we'll try to. Earl Foster's a guy that is doing a great job on special teams and is a 6'2" safety. He's a redshirt sophomore. Made every tackle the other day on punt. Had the block that got us the touchdown on the kickoff return. So he's a guy that's going to have to play some at safety moving forward to give Adrian McDonald and Trayvon Stewart a little bit of a rest.
Derek Matthews, it seems like the last 2 games has, you know, showed up in big plays. Has he been? Does the tape show that he's been, you know, playing that well, and it just hasn't showed up in interceptions and fumble recoveries until lately, or has he come along more in the past 2 games?
No, that's you know, what he's doing, and I think I used the word spoiled a few months ago on him, because people around here become spoiled, and I'm talking about within our program, because he's a tackling machine. He doesn't miss tackles. He forced a fumble against Memphis on the opening drive. It was actually laying on his back. He made the tackle, forced the fumble. He's laying on his back. All his teammates swarm to the ball. The ball's being kicked around, and he is able to get up off the ground and run over and recover the fumble. So, again, in this game, I think he was the American Athletic Defensive Player of the Week for his effort. But, you know, 12 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, an interception, a touchdown, and a safety is a pretty good day's work. So it's if you're asking, is how he playing surprising to us or something we have not seen to this point? No, not at all. And again, he started outside linebacker as a true freshman, 14 games. Started last year as an outside linebacker as a true sophomore for 12 games. Gained the weight, moved inside, and you know, this July he was one of the couple of guys that I took with me to our American Athletic Conference meetings up in Rhode Island, because I feel like he's a guy that's going to be a leader for us. Again, he's a captain and is really, really playing well right now.
Coach, did you have a chance to watch Case on Sunday?
You know what? I had a chance. I was doing some recruiting from my office, and I did for the first time in 2 years on a Sunday. There's a big TV actually in my office that I didn't even know worked, and I turned it on and tried to see if we subscribed to that station, and we did. So I got a chance to watch Case for a little bit, and it was great to see him out there. You know, it brought back some good memories, seeing him extend plays and run around and throw the ball down the field. So I'm proud of him, you know, and great ambassador for our program, and I enjoy watching him play. I think other people do as well, and again, wish certainly the Houston Texans all the best the rest of the season. Anyone else? All right, thank you.